Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from shannonstudio.com, and we are here to talk about creative life and what that looks like, and a little bit about Sweden. Since I live in Sweden, I have for a year, and it's been exciting, and there's new things with that, so sometimes I share that. Yeah, like tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be sharing some things specifically about Sweden. Let's see. Hey, Trisha. So, today I didn't number my list. I make my lists when I'm gonna, share some ideas, and it's like all over the place. But usually at the end, I like number them at least so I know kind of where I'm supposed to go. I didn't number them today, so we'll just see. We'll just see how random it gets. But this morning, well, when I do drawings and stuff like that, I don't watch movies. I usually listen to movies I've already seen, because then I don't get distracted. So I listen to movies I've already seen, or I do podcasts, but not usually podcasts, because that is so hard to not stop and write a thought down. And sometimes when I listen, it's just like these thoughts, and so I stop. I try to get away from podcasts, and usually only do those when I'm walking or traveling somewhere. But today I listened to videos. So I listened to this guy in particular, James Burke. He does like travel journals. He does art, illustration. He just does a lot of things. So he has videos, and so I was listening to him today, and it was so interesting because I didn't even remember this until I was done writing my notes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remembered that from this morning. So sometimes I wonder how many times thoughts thread through and they influence us, because this morning I wasn't planning on talking about this topic, but anyway, so he has these videos, and he talks in these videos, and he explains things. And so somebody in the comment one day said, do you watch a lot of Shark Tank? I almost said Shark Tales. Okay, that's only funny to me. Somebody said in the comments, do you watch a lot of Shark Tank? And he said, yeah, why? And the person said, because you use the phrase, and for that reason, a lot. And I guess if that's the right exact phrase, I didn't look it up, but that's what I remembered the phrase to be. Because at the end, when the sharks are going to either go with you, they're not going to take you on. They'll say, and for that reason, I'm out. And so he used that quite often, I guess, and that other person picked up on the words he was using. And in this day and time, in this moment in our history, the world history, but particularly the United States history, words are extremely important right now. They're can be very volatile right now. So that's what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about today just a little bit about words, the words we use. Also, being able to use words. I remember somebody telling me that the power color is red. And I just always remembered that. I think maybe it was Layla that said, the power color is red. So if you want to have feel in your power, feel strong and confident, and come across as powerful to somebody else, wear red. Maybe that's why I moved away from red, because I used to wear red all the time. And then now I don't hardly wear red. Maybe because I'm a little too much intense. I'm intense too much anyways. I don't need red to just add that. I digress. So there are power colors. Colors mean things, give people feelings and meanings. Well, there are power words, and I took this class a while ago, a webinar or something, and the woman who was teaching it talked about using certain words in the title of your courses because those are power words. And so I thought that was interesting because I never thought about that. So she said words like master class or master plan or elite or advanced or empire or engine, university, DNA. So those kinds of words give a different reaction to people when they're wanting to sign up for a course. And I know words are important. I use the thesaurus and the dictionary pretty much every day, and I do it for visual vocabulary. To make the ideas expand when I'm trying to get an idea across. It's conceptual thinking. It's usually an idea that you have to put a visual to, or ideas that I have that I want to expand. Because I've learned a long time ago, we don't use very many of our words. We're not really, our vocabularies aren't that big anymore. And I think they were big for a lot of people because they read so much. And that introduces you to vocabulary. And we don't hardly read anymore. I'm just talking generalizing. There's plenty of people who read massive amounts. They say successful people really read a massive amount. But so I don't think, and as a result of us not reading as much or not having that great of a vocabulary, is that we haven't really mastered words and the meaning of words. We use a handful, I want to say a handful, but we use much more than that, but like a handful of words, and not necessarily using the word that we really mean. Here's what a technique for producing ideas, he says. We tend to forget that words are themselves ideas. They might be called ideas in a state of suspended animation. When the words are mastered, the ideas tend to come alive again. And so being able to understand those words, that's why I use the dictionary and the thesaurus all the time, because I know my understanding is not that great for some words, that when I look them up or when I use them, it just like, bam, it explodes. The meaning and the ideas explode. And so if you have a mastery of that, to be able to do that, you can get across ideas better. And you can have, there's a whole bunch that can happen. Well, first off, changing one word in an advertisement headline can increase the response rate by 50%. One word. So that's how important words are. And I think about some of the phrases that we have nowadays. Love wins, love is love. Who's going to say, no, love doesn't win. Love is stupid. I'm not talking about the actual context of its use and thinking it's important or not important or agreeing or not agreeing, but just the words. Love wins. Love is love. Black lives matter. Well, nobody's going to say, I shouldn't say that. That's a problem. Some people say black lives don't matter. But do you see what I'm saying? Conservative is it's a small-minded word now. It's unenlightened, and whereas liberal is very enlightened. So you can see saying one word can give a picture. I was doing some research on and looked up the word hunter. Okay, now I told you I look up words a lot. So when I look up words, sometimes there are pages, like how you go down to the button in the bottom and it has all these 10 or 14 clicks. I say pages, that you can go through of words. One word's thesaurus has 14 pages that you can, and that happens quite often. And I'm like, I can't look through all these words. But that's how many words that can happen. But then I looked up hunter. And I'm thinking I'm going to find a lot of words. But the only word I found, in the very top one, it did have several words. But I'm talking about when you go down the list, it only had killer and killers and scavenger. And I just thought, with the way a lot of people feel about hunting these days, why do we only have killer? Because you can be like a treasure hunter, You can be, so there's lots of words that can, and that's what I was actually looking up. There can be lots of words that you can use in context with hunter, but the word hunter in this day and age is not necessarily a good word. So it's just so interesting to me. Another thought from this book that's been around since 1939. It's called, what is it called? Language and Thought and Action. So this, and it's been copyrighted several times and come out several times again, in 63, 64, 72, 78, 90, 92. I mean, so it keeps coming out. And the guy, a guy, in some of the newer versions, wrote a foreword. Robert MacNeil. So I think maybe he was a broadcaster. I don't know. Hey, Joan. So he wrote a foreword to the book, an introduction to the book. So this is what he said. And it's so interesting. Before, I know, I just jump around a little bit, but when I was reading his introduction, he used language so beautifully. I mean, it was just this rich, he was a real wordsmith, which is another idea, a wordsmith. You know, blacksmith, they take metal and mold it and heat it and demand that it just move into what they want to make it into. I mean, just by the sheer power, the heat, the pounding. And so they make those words do their bidding. A wordsmith, so funny that they use smith, because you are going to use words to force the ideas that you want to get across. Okay, so Robert MacNeil wrote the beginning of his introduction just beautifully. It was just it just took me right to what he was saying. But this is what he says, continues to say. No one had encouraged me to think about the way other people used words to inform or persuade me, to sway me politically or manipulate my emotions, to prejudice me or make me want to buy something. No one had told me I used language that way without knowing it. In short, words that I loved for their poetic qualities played a complex role in human psychology and society, but all that was a mystery to me. And he says that this book, Language and in Thought and Action, opened his eyes up to the idea of informing, persuading, manipulating, prejudice, all those kinds of things that he's talking about. And we all do that. We all have, there's trigger words that get us triggered and set us off. There are police right now is going to set everybody off. Not everybody, but will set off a lot of people. It's just, and I just think that sometimes we have to be careful of the words we choose to use. We have to be more thoughtful. I mean, we don't have to use a dictionary all the time like I do, but I think just having this in the back of our mind, just having the extra nugget of thought that words are hugely important and they can persuade, inform, sway, manipulate, prejudice. If we remember that in our interactions, especially important interactions, in our relationships, in things that matter, if we have that little thought in the back of our head that we need to be thoughtful, very thoughtful about the words that we use and the language we use. So he, in the book Teaching for a technique for producing ideas, he says, thus words being symbols of ideas, we can collect ideas by collecting words. And words are fascinating. I would say, take a couple of thoughts that you have and go into the dictionary, go into the thesaurus, and just look around and see what it says. I've done that with some important documents where, some blessings that I've been given, and gone through and used words. Used the thesaurus and dictionary and just built better meanings and more insightful ideas. So I think that's a great exercise to do. Let's see. He continues to say, Robert MacNeil, this book, The Language of Thought and Action, demonstrates how our use of language reveals us, and how through examining our language we know ourselves better. And I just thought, yeah, that's true. I think that's true. And I think it would be more true if we are a little bit, I mean, it reveals us. Whatever we use reveals us, whether we are aware or not. But I think if we become more aware, we'll know ourselves better. So that's a thought today. You know, there are power words. Know our language. Understands that words, especially now, can have a huge impact on opening up a dialogue or slamming that door shut. And it happens in relationships all the time, where a word is said and it's a careless word, but the damage is started. So that's just the thought today. So think about that. See if there's anything that rings true or has a thought, or you have a thought about that to share with me. And remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. And I will be back tomorrow. Today is day 324, so I'll be back 325. Bye.